Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a whole stack of sources, really dig in, and pull out the core knowledge, the actionable stuff for you.
And today, we're tackling something pretty huge. We're diving into a philosophy, really a system, that came from analyzing over 500, incredibly successful Americans.
We're talking about the giants of industry, people who built fortunes, created whole sectors in the 20th century. It's often called a textbook on individual achievement.
Right. And our goal here isn't just to give you a summary. We want to pull out the operating instructions, find those core principles, that sort of intangible secret they talk about behind massive success.
It's framed as a formula, isn't it? Something designed to help you organize and actually apply the knowledge you might already have.
Exactly. Turning potential into, real compensation and useful service, maybe without all the usual trial and error. That's the promise.
The sheer scale of the original research is what grabs me. Someone like Dr. Miller Reese Hutchison, who worked closely with Thomas Edison for years, he apparently insisted this stuff needed to be studied, digested, and meditated upon. He saw it as a missing piece.
Yeah, the ability to organize and apply what you know. It's one thing to acquire knowledge, but directing it effectively, that's different. A lot of people get stuck there.
And the nature of the secret itself is interesting. They keep saying it's not something you can just buy off a shelf or get handed to you.
Right. Which maybe explains why it isn't just common knowledge, like a simple how-to guide. They say it comes in two parts.
And the kicker is, one part is supposedly already in your possession if you're genuinely ready for it, if you're receptive.
Which I think shifts the focus.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding some hidden key, but maybe about achieving a certain personal readiness first.
That makes sense. Andrew Carnegie, who was a mentor to the author behind this philosophy, he apparently felt that regular schooling, university and all that,
wasn't very useful for making real money.
Exactly. He thought it was often useless for accumulating riches. But his own specialized formula, he used that to coach lots of people, many without much formal education.
And they went on to develop leadership skills and make, huge fortunes.
So to really understand the power we're talking about, we have to look at that big example, the formation of the United States Steel Corporation.
Ah, yes. The sources claim that Charles M. Schwab, using these principles basically an idea backed by planning and faith, created this enormous value for himself, yes, but also systemically.
And we need to stress how enormous. This wasn't just a good deal. We're talking about a single application of this thinking being worth roughly, an estimated $600 million.
$600 million,
yeah.
In money and opportunity combined. And the key is, it wasn't just capital investment moving around. This value was supposedly created primarily from intangible things.
From an idea.
An idea backed by these definite organized principles, the power of thought, basically.
Which leads to that pretty bold claim they make, that once someone gets this and uses it properly, they're sort of literally swept on to success.
Yeah, with but little effort, and they never again submit to failure. It sounds almost like changing the physics of your mind or something. It's not just improving, but a fundamental shift.
Okay, let's unpack that shift then. If we're looking for the absolute foundation, the starting block for that kind of success, that $600 million idea, where does it actually begin?
Well, it's maybe simpler than you'd think. It doesn't start with a business plan or having money or even the right education. According to this philosophy, it all begins with desire.
Desire. Okay, that's the first principle they lay out. But, doesn't everyone desire things? Wealth, success. Why isn't everyone achieving it if it's that simple?
Because, they argue, it can't be just passive wishing or vague hope. It has to be a definite burning desire, a consuming obsession to do something specific.
So hope isn't enough?
Not even close. They say it's utterly insufficient. The state of mind you need is absolute belief. Because, think about it. You're not really ready for something until you genuinely believe you can get it.
Right.
That burning desire is like the rocket fuel. It forces you to commit, to really go for it.
Hey, let's make that concrete.
Right.
The sources give this incredible story about Edwin C. Barnes and Thomas Edison. It really brings burning desire to life.
It really does. So Barnes shows up at Edison's office in Orange, New Jersey. And his situation, it wasn't great.
Understatement. Right. He looked like, what did they say, an ordinary tramp.
Yeah, not polished at all. Didn't even have money for the train fare, apparently. He traveled by blind baggage.
Riding illegally on a freight train.
Right. which in itself tells you something about his level of commitment. Forget comfort, forget rules. He was just focused on getting there. It's like he'd already burned his bridges behind him. No retreat possible.
But the crucial part wasn't just his grit. It was the specificity of what he wanted. He didn't just ask for a job, any job.
No, he had a very definite goal. He wanted to work with Edison, become his business associate. Not just for him. He had this identity fixed in his mind.
And that definiteness, that's key. Edison, who was supposedly a master at reading people,
He picked up on it immediately. He said later that Barnes just gave off this vibe, this determination. He knew Barnes was there to get what he came for, and that he was willing to stake his entire future on it.
So Edison looked past the rough appearance.
Completely. He realized the young man's thoughts, his internal focus. That was way more important than how he looked or whether he had any money.
But the partnership didn't happen overnight. It took, what, 5 years?
5 long years. And during that time, Barnes took whatever work he could get in Edison's labs. Menial stuff, unimportant to Edison.
But crucial for Barnes.
Absolutely. Because it kept him physically close, in the right environment. It was his chance, as he apparently put it, to display his merchandise, his persistence, his willingness.
Imagine the mental strength needed for that. 5 years of low-level work.
With, as the sources say, not one ray of hope, not one promise that he'd ever get that partnership.
So how did he sustain it?
The idea here is mental prepossession. In his own mind, Barnes already was Edison's partner. Every single day for 5 years, he held on to that identity. He was totally committed internally.
Who had already decided?
He succeeded because he just refused to compromise.
Yeah.
He fixed on that one definite goal, obsessed over it, and persisted until reality finally caught up with his mental state.
That's incredible tenacity, holding that vision for half a decade.
Yeah.
Wow. The sources also give another example, a really personal one, about how desire and faith can overcome even a major physical handicap.
Ah, yes, the story of the author's son, Blair. He was born without normal hearing.
And objectively, you'd think, well, that's a huge disadvantage. How can you possibly compensate for that? Reason says it's impossible.
But this philosophy argues that reason sometimes needs to be pushed aside. Desire, backed by faith, has to look for the equivalent advantage hidden in every setback. It's a core tenet.
So the author didn't just accept it. He actively worked on his son's mindset. How?
Systematically, using what they call auto-suggestion. He told Blair bedtime stories, planting this definite desire to hear and speak, and mixing it with faith.
And here's the really surprising part. He deliberately framed the deafness not as a problem, but as an asset.
Yeah, an asset of great value, which is kind of mind-bending. The father admitted he had no clue how it could possibly be an asset, logically.
But the principal demanded it.
Exactly. Every adversity carries the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. By planting that belief, Blair grew up expecting things to work out, expecting special attention. And apparently he often got it, thanks partly to his mother working closely with his teachers.
Then came the breakthrough with the hearing device.
Right, and the moment he could actually hear clearly for the first time, the sources describe him as being intoxicated with the joy of sound.
And that intense emotion sparked something.
It catalyzed the idea, that sudden rush, that hunch or inspiration. He realized he could dedicate his life to helping other deafened people.
Yeah.
Share his experience.
Yeah.
He immediately started researching, made a 2-year plan, presented it, and apparently got hired right away into a responsible job with a high starting salary.
So he literally turned his handicap into a career.
A successful career helping thousands. It's presented as the ultimate proof. A definite, burning desire, saturated with faith, somehow finds a way to become real. It transmutes itself into its physical equivalent.
Okay, but that begs the question, how do you do that? How do you actually mix desire with faith? How do you engineer that belief? It sounds slippery.
It does. And that leads us straight into the next key principle, understanding the mechanism of faith and autosuggestion.
Right. So faith here isn't like a religious thing, necessarily.
No, in this context, it's defined as a specific state of mind. And crucially, it's a state of mind that can be induced, developed deliberately through autosuggestion, self-suggestion. It's about programming your own subconscious mind.
And the subconscious has its own language, right? It doesn't just respond to plain words.
Exactly. The sources are really clear on this. Just telling yourself something, intellectually, doesn't cut it. Plain, unemotional thoughts have little impact down there.
So what does work?
Thoughts need to be mixed thoroughly with emotion or feeling. That feeling component is belief, essentially. The emotion is like the catalyst, the activator.
The yeast in the dough.
Good analogy. It turns a passive thought, like, I want money, into an active, motivating force that the subconscious can actually run with. Feeling the certainty of having it, that's active.
They use that analogy about becoming a criminal too, right? Through association.
Yes, it's a powerful point. If you constantly surround yourself with negative influences, crime, whatever, eventually your mind internalizes that. You start to believe it's normal, maybe even become part of it. Association breeds belief.
So the logic is, if it works for destructive pattern,
It must work for constructive ones too. You develop faith by deliberately, repeatedly suggesting to your subconscious that you already have faith. You feed it positive, definite emotions. Over time, your mind starts to take on the character of those dominant influences.
this is where things get a bit more out there. They start talking about the universe, energy, the ether.
Yeah, the mental physics part.
Yeah.
We need to translate that a bit for today. They use the term ether based on the science of their time.
But the core idea,
The core idea is that the universe is fundamentally energy, a vast field of adaptive energy. And the claim is that this energy responds to and adapts itself to the nature of our thoughts, especially our dominant emotional thoughts.
our brains become magnetized.
That's the term they use. Magnetized by our prevailing thoughts, attracting similar vibrations, similar energy from this universal field.
And the critical point is that this whole system is neutral. It doesn't care what you're thinking about.
Absolutely crucial. It's impartial. It will help you manifest thoughts of poverty and failure just as readily as thoughts of riches and success.
So if your mind is constantly filled with fear, say fear of poverty,
Then your magnetized brain attracts circumstances, events, opportunities or lack thereof that align with that fear. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, reinforcing the internal state.
okay, so if we want to harness this constructively, avoid the negative trap, how do we specifically induce faith? What are the practical steps?
The sources lay out a very specific, almost ritualistic 6-step process. The key is consistent repetition with emotion.
What does it involve?
First, you need absolute clarity. Fix in your mind the exact amount of money or the specific goal you desire. Then, determine exactly what you intend to give in return. There's no something for nothing.
Right, the value exchange.
Then, set a definite date for acquiring it. Create a definite plan for carrying out your desire. This is important. Begin at once, whether you feel ready or not, to put the plan into action.
Don't wait for perfection.
No. And then, the 5th step. Write it all down. A clear, concise statement of the goal, the time frame, what you'll give in return, and the plan.
And the final step is the auto-suggestion part.
Yes. Read your written statement aloud, twice daily, once just before bed, and once right after waking up. And as you read, you must see, feel, and believe yourself already in possession of the goal.
The audible repetition is key.
They emphasize it helps the vibrations reach the subconscious. And it absolutely has to be mixed with that feeling, that emotion of already having achieved it.
And there's also that intense visualization component.
Yes, concentration. When you're doing this, especially the visualization part, you close your eyes and hold the thought of the money or the goal until you can actually see its physical appearance. See yourself holding it, using it.
You have to feel the reality of it.
You have to live it in your mind, expecting your subconscious to then deliver the practical steps needed. Those often come as flashes of inspiration, hunches, what they call the 6th sense.
That's quite a process. Desire, fueled by faith, induced through autosuggestion, leading to inspired plans. But even the best idea needs structure to become reality. That brings us to specialized knowledge.
Right, and this is a really important distinction they make. There's general knowledge, and then there's specialized knowledge.
General knowledge being like academic knowledge, broad learning.
Exactly. The kind many university professors have in abundance. But the sources argue that this type of knowledge on its own is of but little use in the accumulation of money.
Unless
Unless it's organized and intelligently directed through practical plans of action towards a definite end. Knowledge itself is only potential power. It needs application.
that feels incredibly relevant today. We're drowning in information, general knowledge is everywhere, but applying it effectively, that's different.
It really is. The failure of a lot of education, according to this view, is that it teaches people what to know, but not how to organize and use that knowledge in life.
And if building fortunes requires this highly organized, specialized knowledge, do you have to possess it all yourself?
Not necessarily. And that's a key insight. The fortune builder, the leader, doesn't need to be the expert in everything. They need to know how to access and direct the expertise of others.
Which brings us to that classic Henry Ford story. The libel suit.
Oh yeah, perfect illustration. During the trial, opposing lawyers tried to paint Ford as ignorant by asking him basic general knowledge questions, like who was Benedict Arnold? Details about the American Revolution.
Things any school kid might know.
Right? Trying to embarrass him. But Ford's response was brilliant.
He didn't try to answer them directly?
No. He got impatient and basically said, look, if I really needed the answer to such a foolish question, I have a row of electric push buttons on my desk. I could push a button and summon people who do know the answer, who specialize in that.
His point being?
His point was that his value wasn't in hoarding random facts, but in his ability to organize and direct the minds of people who possessed the specialized knowledge needed to run his business. That's the real power.
So the core skill is building and leading that team of specialists, that alliance. This is the mastermind principle, isn't it?
Exactly. The coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. That's the definition.
And the sources give concrete steps for building this alliance. 4 steps.
4 crucial steps. First, you have to ally yourself with the right group. People whose specific skills, experience, education, even influence are needed for your specific plan. You have to fill your knowledge gaps.
Step 2 is about making it worthwhile for them.
Absolutely critical. You must decide clearly what advantages, benefits, or compensation you're offering each member for their cooperation. Nobody smart works indefinitely for free or without clear gain. It has to be a fair exchange. This is a structured partnership, not just asking favors.
Okay. Then step 3 involves regular meetings.
Yes. Meet frequently, at least twice a week, maybe more initially, until the plans are completely perfected. This isn't a one-off brainstorming session. It requires ongoing, iterative refinement, collective intelligence working together.
And the 4th step? This sounds like the hardest one to maintain.
It probably is. The absolute necessity of maintaining perfect harmony within the group.
Why is harmony so vital?
Because the mastermind principle relies on the synergistic energy created when minds blend and coordinate positively. Discord, friction, negativity, it instantly shatters that cooperative energy. The whole thing falls apart. Disagreements have to be handled quickly and constructively. Everyone needs to be pulling in the same direction harmoniously.
Which loops us back to that huge U.S. Steel example, the dinner party where the idea took flight, December 12, 1900.
The University Club dinner. J.P. Morgan was there, Charles Schwab, other major financiers. Morgan apparently only planned to stay briefly.
But Schwab got his attention.
He captivated the room, spoke for 90 minutes straight, laying out this incredibly detailed vision.
Not just merging steel companies, right? It was more than that.
Much more. It was a clear-cut program for the aggrandizement of steel. He talked about radical efficiency, specialization, shutting down unprofitable mills, focusing on specific products, and aggressively capturing foreign markets through this unified giant. It was a complete forward-thinking strategy.
An intangible idea, but presented with absolute conviction.
Total faith in its potential. And Morgan, the story goes, was completely swept off his feet. The power of the idea, combined with Schwab's definite plan and belief, was irresistible.
And that led to the negotiation for Carnegie Steel.
Yes. Schwab negotiated the sale for around $400 million. Morgan supposedly told Carnegie later, if you had asked for $100 million more, you'd have gotten it. Shows how compelling that initial vision was.
But this $600 million figure, where does that come from?
That's the estimated increase in the appraised value of all the combined properties after consolidation, driven purely by Schwab's idea and the potential of the organized plan. It wasn't new physical assets, it was value created from better organization and vision.
So the intangible ingredients, the idea, the faith, the plan, the organization, they were the real source of that massive wealth creation.
That's the core argument. The physical plants were just tools. The real assets were intangible. This is why they insist you can think and grow rich. The thinking, properly organized and directed, creates the value.
But thinking alone isn't enough. That U.S. Steel success, any major success, needs relentless follow-through. Which brings us to persistence.
Yes, the engine that keeps things moving. Persistence is defined as the sustained effort required to induce faith. It's the bridge. You can't replace it with anything else.
It's about not quitting when things get tough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And understanding that temporary defeat is not permanent failure. The sources almost frame it as a test. Life tests you to see if you really want it.
We see this everywhere. The example of Fannie Hurst, the writer.
Phenomenal persistence.
Yeah.
Imagine getting 36 rejection slips. 36.
Most people would quit after maybe 3 or 4, assume they just don't have talent.
Right. But Hurst kept going, pounded the pavements, refused to accept no, for 4 years, until finally the Saturday Evening Post took a story, and once she broke through, boom, success wasn't gradual, it was explosive. Like that $100,000 she got for movie rights to one novel later on.
And Kate Smith, the singer.
Similar story. Sang for free, or nearly free, for years. On any radio station, any stage that would have her. Just relentlessly putting herself out there, believing in her goal.
Until the industry couldn't ignore her anymore.
Pretty much. They finally came to her and asked her price. Her salary figures became astronomical after that. She persisted until success was inevitable.
So persistence isn't just gritting your teeth, it's a state of mind.
Fundamentally, yes. A state of mind you cultivate. It lets you brush off temporary defeat. The sources even suggest there's this hidden guide, maybe the universe, maybe your subconscious, that throws obstacles at you to gauge your commitment. Only the ones who keep going, whose desire is truly burning hot, actually arrive.
And that kind of sustained effort thrives best under a certain kind of leadership, right? Not the old command and control style.
Definitely not. The sources draw a sharp line here. Leadership by force, things Napoleon, maybe Kaiser Wilhelm, history shows, that's always temporary. It creates resentment. It's unsustainable.
So what's the enduring kind?
Leadership by consent. It has to be based on cooperation, mutual respect, and a fair sharing of the rewards. A real partnership model. It needs to benefit the employer, the employee, and the public or customer. All 3 legs of the stool.
For anyone listening who wants to be that kind of leader, the sources list specific factors, 11 of them.
Yes, 11 major attributes. Some are what you'd expect, like courage, self-control, pleasing personality, but others are really highlighted as crucial.
Right.
A keen sense of justice. Fairness is non-negotiable. Also, definiteness of decision leaders can't waffle. And definiteness of plans, they need to know where they're going and how.
And interestingly, on the flip side, a major cause of leadership failure listed is...
lack of imagination, yeah. A leader who can't anticipate problems or come up with creative solutions when things go wrong, they're sunk. They need that vision.
This ties into how everyone contributes, leader or team member. They formalize it with the QQS formula.
Right. Quality, quantity, and spirit. The quality of your service must be excellent. The quantity must be as much as you can deliver efficiently. But the third part, the spirit of cooperation, is often the make-or-break factor.
Andrew Carnegie was apparently ruthless about this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He stated he wouldn't keep anyone, no matter how productive, quality and quantity, if they didn't work in a spirit of perfect harmony with the team, with the mastermind. That harmonious cooperation was paramount. And that's why many of the people who did conform to that became incredibly wealthy alongside him.
Applying this QQS formula effectively means you need to be smart about how you market yourself, your services, which leads to challenging that old idea of starting at the bottom.
Yeah, the sources really attack that tradition. They argue that starting right at the bottom often just grinds you down. It breeds mediocrity, kills your ambition, limits your perspective because all you see is the drudgery.
So the advice is...
aim to start 1 or 2 steps above the bottom, if possible. Get into a position where you can actually look around, see opportunities, interact with people who are moving forward, rather than just getting stuck in a low-level rut. It encourages a different mindset.
The story about the woman who created that detailed plan for her son is the perfect example of not starting at the bottom.
It's fantastic. A masterclass in marketing personal services. Her son finishes college, but like many graduates, has no clear idea how to present his value.
He just had a degree.
Right. So she spends weeks researching the company he wants to work for, understanding their needs, their challenges. Then she creates this incredibly detailed, almost 50-page brief.
50 pages? What was in it?
It outlined his abilities, his education, sure. But the crucial part was a comprehensive illustrated plan showing exactly how he would step into the junior executive role he wanted and immediately start adding value, solving specific problems for the employer. Suggestions, strategies, everything.
Wow, so she basically handed him a ready-made solution to sell.
Exactly. It changed the whole dynamic. Instead of him saying, please hire me, here's my resume, the brief said, here is a custom solution for your company's needs, and I am the person uniquely prepared to execute it.
And the result?
He got the job. First interview. At the salary he wanted. Starting as a junior executive, not in the mailroom. The author estimates this approach saved him at least 10 years of climbing to the conventional ladder.
10 years bypassed through planning and presentation? That's incredible.
It shows the power of organized, directed knowledge applied to marketing yourself.
We see that same refusal to just accept the status quo in the Dan Halpin story, too. Took a sales job he hated.
But got inspired by Knute Rockne, the football coach, and his relentless desire to win, to excel. Halpin applied that mindset. He used proper planning and sheer persistence.
And became a vice president in 6 months?
6 months. Because he refused to compromise with mediocrity. He used his desire and planning to literally force his circumstances to change.
Okay, these examples show the massive upside when you direct your mind constructively. But what about the forces working against us? That brings us to the necessity of mastering fear, the ghosts of fear.
This is absolutely fundamental because it comes back to that core truth. The only thing you have absolute control over is your own thoughts.
And fear works just like desire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fear impulses, if you let them dominate your mind, translate themselves into their physical equivalent, failure, illness, poverty, just as surely and quickly as constructive thoughts of desire translate into success. Your brain gets magnetized by whatever dominates it.
The sources list 6 basic fears. Which one do they pinpoint as the most destructive?
The fear of poverty.
Why poverty specifically, more than, say, fear of death or illness?
Because its effects are so pervasive and paralyzing in daily life, it cripples your reason. It destroys imagination. You can't think creatively when you're terrified about survival. It kills self-reliance and the sheer social shame and humiliation attached to it.
It can break people's spirits?
Completely. Even people with great ability or character. The source material even quotes Westbrook Pegler, describing how you can physically see the effect of poverty on someone, the droop of his shoulders, the set of his hat, his walk, and his gaze. It just crushes the spirit needed for achievement.
And that fear of what others think, the social judgment, ties directly into the next big one, the fear of criticism.
Oh, absolutely. This one is insidious because it stops you from taking risks, from being original. It destroys initiative. You don't voice your ideas because someone might laugh or disagree. You don't try new things. It kills the very imagination needed for that $600 million idea we talked about.
What are the symptoms they mention?
Things like chronic self-consciousness, always worrying what others think, lack of poise, nervousness in front of people, and interestingly, extravagance.
Extravagance? How does that fit?
Trying to keep up with the Joneses, spending money you don't have on clothes, cars, houses, whatever, purely out of fear of being criticized or seen as inferior if you don't. It's driven by fear of judgment.
The historical examples they use are kind of funny, but telling.
Like the baldness theory.
Yeah.
Suggesting men go bald from wearing tight hats that cut off circulation.
Why wear tight hats?
Peer pressure. Fear of criticism. Everyone is doing it, so you conform, even if it's uncomfortable or maybe even harmful. Women's hats, being more decorative and loose, didn't cause the same issue, supposedly. It highlights how much we submit to trends out of fear of standing out.
But the fear of criticism isn't funny when it comes from people close to you. Parents, family.
That's where it becomes truly damaging. The sources are very strong on this. Criticism, especially from parents during childhood, can cause irreparable injury.
By destroying ambition.
Yes, and implanting deep-seated self-doubt. They give that heartbreaking anecdote about the author's boyhood friend whose mother constantly told him, "You'll land in the penitentiary before you're 20.
And he did end up in trouble.
Sent to a reformatory at 17. That constant negative suggestion, that criticism, became his reality. It highlights the immense responsibility parents and mentors have to build up ambition, not tear it down with fear-based criticism.
Okay, so we've got these paralyzing fears. Poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, death. They're like ghosts haunting us. What's the antidote? How do we fight back?
There's one primary weapon against all of them: the power of decision.
Decision. How does that counter fear?
Because worry, which is the state of mind produced by sustained fear, is almost always caused by indecision. You worry when you haven't made up your mind, when you're stuck in the what-ifs. Making a prompt, firm decision cuts off the worry at its source.
The example they use for this is really stark. The man condemned to be executed.
It's counterintuitive, isn't it? But it illustrates the principle perfectly. Hours before his electrocution, he was apparently the calmest person there.
What?
When asked, he said something like, "It feels fine. I made up my mind to accept my fate in good spirit." He reached a final, definite decision. There was no more uncertainty, no more what if I appeal, no more indecision. And that finality brought in peace, calmness. He even ate a hearty meal.
So the act of deciding removes the mental turmoil.
Exactly. It eliminates the space where worry breeds. So for the listener, the practical steps become clear. Whip the fear of poverty by deciding to get along without worry. Focus on your plan instead. Whip the fear of criticism by deciding you don't care what random people think or say. Eliminate the fear of old age by deciding to accept it as a time of wisdom and experience, not decline. Decision is the key.
It all comes back to controlling your thoughts.
Ultimately, yes. You are the master of your destiny only because you have the power to control your thoughts. If you abdicate that control, if you let fear dominate, then you control nothing. You're just reacting.
So we've covered this whole arc, starting with that burning desire, building faith through autosuggestion, acquiring and organizing specialized knowledge, forming the Mastermind alliance, applying relentless persistence, and finally conquering fear through decision. What's the final piece? How does it all lock together? What's the master key?
The master key isn't really a separate principle. It's the result of applying all the others. It's the developed habit of mind control.
The ability to consciously direct your thoughts.
Precisely. Look at the big successes they cite.
Yeah.
Ford, Woolworth, even historical figures like George Washington. They succeeded because they exercised their right to trust their own judgment, their own vision. They refused to let negative suggestions, the "it can't be done" chorus from others, penetrate their minds.
Ford knew he could build a V8 engine in one block, even when his engineers said it was impossible. Woolworth knew his five-and-dime store concept would work, despite everyone telling him he'd go broke.
They controlled their dominant thoughts. And this control isn't some innate gift, it's learned through self-discipline and habit, by deliberately, systematically keeping your mind busy with your definite purpose, backed by your definite plan. That constructive focus crowds out the fear and doubt. The only reliable way to get and keep riches, they argue, is by providing useful service. And that service must begin with constructive thought.
Which brings us back full circle to the beginning. The ultimate power, the master key itself.
Is the privilege you have right now to create in your own mind a burning desire for a definite form of riches or any other definite goal. It's the power to choose what dominates your thinking.
And using this key has no penalty.
None at all. It's your birthright, according to this philosophy. But there's a huge price if you don't use it. The price is failure, mediocrity, being pushed around by circumstances, living under the shadow of those ghosts of fear.
So as you, the listener, take all this in from our deep dive today, you've got the pieces. You understand the principles needed to potentially shift your own mental physics. But making it work, actually applying it, especially in marketing your own value, that requires some honest self-reflection first.
Absolutely. The sources end with a real challenge, a kind of self-inventory based on that QQS formula, quality, quantity, spirit. It cuts right to the chase.
What's the question you have to ask yourself?
You have to ask, honestly. If I had been the purchaser of my own services for the past year, would I be satisfied with my purchase?
Wow. That's direct.
It is. Would you rehire yourself based on the quality of your work, the quantity you delivered, and crucially, the spirit of harmony and cooperation you brought to the table? Your honest answer determines your real market value.
And dictates your trajectory towards success or away from it. So this is the moment, isn't it? The call to action.
It's the call for that prompt and definite decision we talked about. Reject the paralysis of fear and indecision. Choose your definite purpose. Start your plan. As Emerson put it, if we are related, we shall meet.
And through exploring these ideas, maybe we have met, in a sense. Now, the task is yours. Go make that decision. Define your desire. And as the philosophy urges, never again submit to failure.